This episode of the Demonic Compendium contains spoilers for the following games. Viewer discretion is advised. For those of you playing Persona 3 Reload as your first experience into Persona 3, I will be avoiding the specific story details, but consider this your fair warning anyway. Welcome to a shielded new episode of the Demonic Compendium, the show where I discuss the mythology, design, and game history of your favorite Megami Tensei demons. Today marks the release of Persona 3 Reload, aka the Persona 3 remake, so I wanted to cover a figure known for her poise and importance to that title. So, grab your shield and recharge your Robot Girl batteries, because today, we're talking about Athena. Athena, sometimes known with the additional title of Pallas Athena, is one of the primary Olympians in Greek mythology. There are a few different origins of her birth, but the one most commonly brought up in Megami Tensei is that Zeus birthed her from his forehead after eating her mother, Metis. Athena is a goddess associated with many facets of culture, including, among others, civilization, philosophy, justice, mathematics, and war. While often viewed as a war goddess, most followers of Athena view her as a symbol of righteous battling out of a need for protection over other Greek war figures like Ares or Enolius, who are more associated with bloodlust. In fact, Ares' Compendium entry from Persona 3 even mentions Athena and highlights the differences between the two. One of her most common symbols is even the olive tree, which is traditionally a symbol of peace. So widespread was her worship that the leading Greek city Athens was supposedly named after her and founded by her followers. Now, similar to when I covered Thor, I think trying to cover every facet of these big deities would make this video way too long, so I'm just going to cover a few stories about Athena that I think are relevant or interesting for other aspects of this video. For starters, like I mentioned earlier, you may notice she's often referred to as Pallas Athena. There are a few differing tales as to why this is, but one that seems relevant to Megami Tensei is that Pallas was the name of the daughter of Triton. One day, during a tournament between the two, Pallas was ready to best Athena in combat. Zeus, terrified that his daughter would lose, distracted Pallas with the Aigis, a Greek artifact typically believed to be a shield or breastplate of some kind. Athena, believing her friend would dodge her attack, accidentally killed Pallas, which caused her great grief. Athena would eventually take up the mantle of Pallas to honor her fallen friend, and also created a wooden likeness of Pallas which she wrapped in the Aegis. This wooden monument to her friend was known as the Palladion, so yeah, that's where Aigis gets her initial persona from as well. Pretty fitting. Despite being a goddess worthy of worship, Athena could also be quite petty and vengeful at times, particularly toward other women. One of the most famous stories of Athena is her handling of Medusa, a beautiful mortal woman who performed certain actions that may or may not have been consensual with Poseidon in one of Athena's temples. Athena cursed Medusa, transforming her hair into snakes and making her gaze turn people into stone. Athena eventually aided Perseus in defeating Medusa by gifting him with a reflective shield. When Perseus chopped off Medusa's head, he gifted it to Athena, who proceeded to display it prominently on the Aegis. Another famous tale is that of Arachne, a shepherd's daughter who was quite skilled at weaving. One day, Arachne made the mistake of boasting that her skill with cloth could exceed that of Athena's, so the goddess challenged the mortal woman to a contest. Not only was Arachne's tapestry blasphemous, depicting Zeus and other gods mistreating mortals, but it was also way better than Athena's. So Athena stopped the contest and ripped up Arachne's work, resulting in the mortal woman hanging herself. Athena felt bad though, so she transformed the woman into a spider so she could continue to weave beautiful works of art. Athena has had many tales that involve her helping great heroes, ranging from Odysseus to Heracles, and often many versions of these tales exist, so I hope at the very least I've crafted these stories as accurately as I could for today's video. Pallas Athena's Compendium entry from Shin Megami Tensei Liberation D2 refers to her as the goddess of war in Greek mythology and one of the 12 Olympian gods. She sprung from Zeus's forehead fully armored after he swallowed her mother, Metis. She is also considered the goddess of skill and art, and though she is the goddess of war, would only engage in battle to protect that which she loves, and never for the sake of warfare. Design-wise, Pallas Athena's demonic form is a fairly traditional take on the figure. We do often see Athena in artwork wielding a spear and shield while wearing a Corinthian helmet, and that's exactly what we see in the Kaneko design. In the original Devil Summoner, Athena's color scheme was much more white and gold, but it transitioned to a black and red palette in Soul Hackers that we've traditionally seen much more of in future games like Strange Journey and Devil Survivor 2. As a persona, Athena keeps many of these same traits with the spear, shield, and helmet. Athena's shield prominently features the Medusa face in a direct reference to the mythology. So Aigis designed both Athena and Palladian to complement one another, with the latter looking much more robotic in a direct parallel to Aigis' story arc. Much like a handful of other personas, Athena also has a Picaro version in Persona 5 Royal. While probably not intentionally what they were going for, I do think it's interesting that it follows the color change of the demon form and gives us a more black and red color palette, with the largest difference being that she now wields a halberd in place of her spear. While Athena traditionally doesn't wield any sort of axe, it was believed that Hephaestus used the axe to split open Zeus's head when it was time for him to give birth to Athena. As far as game history goes, Athena can be divided into her roles as a demon and the one she has as a persona. As a demon, they're typically much more limited. She does have a small role in Digital Devil Saga 2, where the Embryon fights a pair of them in the game's final dungeon after encountering her solar data. She also appears in the mobile title Shin Megami Tensei Liberation D2, though surprisingly, Athena does not create any unique swords or shields for the protagonist. You'd think she would, since that's a pretty big part of her whole deal. Athena's most significant role seems to be in Devil Survivor 2, where players unlock her for fusion by reaching Fate Rank 5 with Makoto Sako, and the anime reflects this relationship by having Makoto summon her in the show. I also know that there's a pretty big character named Athena in Rondo, the third Majin Tensei game, and that's basically all I know. I think she's important to the story, but who cares? It's Rondo. And while we all know what's coming, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that Pallas Athena is the highest level persona of the Justice Arcana in Persona 1, making her a great option for Hidehiko. She was known simply as Athena in Revelation's Persona, and can be obtained by fusing Arachne with Sela while using the Olive Necklace Totem. While wielding her as a persona, Pallas Athena has a unique conversation with Arachne, where she chastises and belittles the Spider-Woman in a direct reference to their feud in mythology. And now, yes, it's time for the star of our show. Athena is the ultimate persona of Aigis in the Persona 3 games, where she represents the Chariot Arcana. Palladian appears as her initial persona for most of the game, and she also has a few small roles in Persona 4 Arena, where Ariadne has a Palladian color palette, and Aigis uses a form of Palladian in her instant kill move, where she takes the form of a giant gun. While Palladian is an inanimate figure honoring Pallas, the persona transforms into the much more human-like Athena when Aigis reaches her resolution in the main plot. I am reasonably assuming this will still be the case with the release of Persona 3 Reload today, because as of the time of making this video, Atlus hasn't confirmed that the remake introduces any third-tier personas, or drastically shakes up anyone's ultimate persona, at least as far as I know. At the start of Persona 3 Fest's The Answer, which you won't be experiencing anytime soon if you're playing Reload or Portable on modern consoles, Aigis uses Athena in her first fight against the mysterious assailant before it transforms into Orpheus to symbolically represent Aigis obtaining Makoto's power. Later in the story, when the gang fights the mysterious shadow at the bottom of the Abyss of Time, it uses reverse versions of most of your party's personas, including Athena. Aigis can also awaken from Palladian to Athena in the Persona Q duology by completing the proper conditions in those games to unlock ultimate personas. However, in nearly all subsequent games that feature Aigis, she continues to use Athena, because unlike Personas 4 and 5, the Persona 3 gang mostly keeps their ultimates instead. So we see Aigis using Athena in games like Persona 4 Arena, and even non-Megami Tensei games like BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle and Lord of Vermilion 2. Speaking of non-Megaten games, there was a Persona event in Love Live School Idol Festival, where Honoka Kosaka dressed up as Palladian, so now you know that. And speaking of rhythm games, in Persona 3 Dancing in Moonlight, none of the characters' personas directly appear, but we do get to see Athena as a cameo on the track Brand New Days, which showcases Athena as Aigis' ultimate persona and uses cutscenes from The Answer. Hey, that's 2 videos in a row now where I get to reference the dancing games. Aigis' version of Athena appears as a DLC persona in Persona 5 Royal, where it also has the aforementioned Picaro version with a more Persona 5 aesthetic. Sending Athena to the electric chair will result in the Kugelbein accessory, or the Kugelbein R if an alarm is active. Kugelbein is a German term that roughly translates as ballpoint leg, and it originally appeared in the series as a piece of leg armor for Aigis in Persona 3. Athena Picaro will create the Charge or Concentrate skill card rather than a unique accessory. Both Athena and Picaro returned in Persona 5 Tactica, with the latter being available in a DLC bundle and the regular form being unlockable for Fusion in New Game Plus. Athena's roles in the Persona series aren't always limited to actually being a persona, and she often appears in the form of equipment. In Persona 3, Aigis has a gun called the Kiss of Athena, which boasts that its bullets are as potent as a goddess's kiss. In Persona 4, Naoto has a gun called the Athena Kiss R, with R being a common subtitle in Japanese media, usually for revivals or remakes of series. Despite the difference in their English names, in Japan this gun was properly called Kiss of Athena R. Another Persona 4 weapon that seems to reference the titular persona is Kanji's Aegis shield, which directly ties into Athena and her mythology. And speaking of Aegis, it's available as a sigil in Tokyo Mirage Session Sharp FE. And that's really all I have to say about that. Does that even count as Athena history? I mean, I guess Zeus used the Aegis too. Aigis is one of the most important characters in Persona 3, and naturally her ultimate persona is a memorable and iconic part of that. I'm just saying, there's a reason we didn't ever see Kalanemi Picaro. Now, if you'll all excuse me, I want to wrap this episode up because I've got a Persona 3 make to play. And so there you have it, Pallas Athena, the supremely shielded, statuesque savior of civilization. Did I leave out something you thought was important? Was I just plain wrong about something? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to let me know who you'd like to see me talk about in future episodes. That's going to do it for this episode of the Demonic Compendium, and I will see you next time. But be careful while you rest that a demon doesn't take over your body.